ahead and start recording and share my screen. Boom. All righty, my screen share is loading. Hopefully, I think you all should be able to see this now. So we just have some announcements that we wanted to go through real quick. Hours logs are due tomorrow. I learned recently that apparently in my email, I said the 30th, which is today. But actually they're due tomorrow by 5:30. But if you get them in today, cool. As long as they're in tomorrow by 5:30. If you have a session or bonus hour scheduled for Labor Day, that is this upcoming Monday. So if you have any Monday session or bonus hour, you do have the option to reschedule it, because since it's a holiday, you will not hold that session or bonus hour. You do have the option to reschedule it if you would like to, but actually rescheduling that session is not required. So that's an if you want to reschedule it or make up that hour, you're welcome to do that. You can fill out the reschedule request on UNG Connect, and then Tracy will work on getting you a room in time based off that request. Make sure that if you haven't already done so, that you do that second introductory speech this week. Drop Ad is over, so it is that time where everybody who is in the class is officially enrolled in the class, for better or for worse. So make sure that you are talking to them and getting them ready to go, and just welcoming them, introducing yourself, telling them a little bit about what SI is, what you'll be doing. If you're able to do that demonstration, that's great as well. Next week, be on the lookout for an email from me about surveying your students. I am keeping up with attendance as y'all are sending it in. Thank you so much for sending it in. Y'all are awesome. Keep up the great work with that this week. But we'll be kind of looking at participation over the weekend, and we'll kind of identify which sections, which courses it's looking like maybe the times aren't the best or aren't working for them. And so we'll reach out to you specifically to about surveying your students to see if we can get a better time for them and you. Kind of on that, speaking of attendance and participation, next week all of our events will be in UNG Connect. So starting next week, only send me attendance. If you have problems with UNG Connect, can't find a student, anything like that, you can send it to me. But if you are just good to go, go ahead, pull up UNG Connect, check students in like you normally would. Since we were not able to have events in UNG Connect this week, and so y'all weren't really able to see when events were happening, we decided to move the peer observation deadline back a week. So that deadline is now October 6th. And I will be sending out some more information about how to sign up for peer observations next week as well. So get ready for those. Those are great, but wait till I send out that sign up sheet. And then another big thing that we wanted to highlight is going forward, we're going to be posting if you're a returner, you're used to the newsletter kind of coming via email. Going forward, we're going to be posting the newsletter only on the UNG Facilitator Team's main feed. So be sure that you're checking that out. The newsletter will always have important updates, spelled updates wrong, love that for me, and any announcements as well. So be sure to be checking that out every week. And it will also be it'll include any upcoming events that our community building committee is establishing. So teams, that main feed will be a great space to be checking in on that. Upcoming events and deadlines, we already talked about these. Hours logs due tomorrow, Thursday, 8:31, and then the peer observation deadline is due October 6th. And then we have our August birthdays, which technically all of these have already passed. So happy birthday to Alexa, Rebecca, Jamie, Kayla, and Brayden. So happy birthday to all of our August birthdays. Any questions about announcements before we get started?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I think I know exactly what you mean by the team's main feed. It's that, like, it looks kind of like a Facebook thing, and you guys did we've done announcement things on there. Last year when I was new, I posted like my adventure picture on there, right? That's the team's main feed.
Yes, so I can share my screen real quick. Yeah, so
I go to Teams all the time. I just don't always go to the main feed because I was used to the emails.
This
Okay.
is that main feed, so this is where it'll get posted.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make 110% sure, even
Yes,
though
thanks for making
I
sure
thought
we're
so.
all good and understanding.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
righty. So, we know it's just like the first week of session, second week of classes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about community today as well. So we wanted to spend at least part of biweekly, we're going to spend like 5 to 7-ish minutes, just kind of talking with some people. I'm going to get some breakout rooms going. And in these breakout rooms, like for instance, Larab, I'm just going to put you in your own breakout room so you and Nor can talk. And then my Gainesville English department people, if y'all just want to, I'll do the same with y'all if y'all want to split up into groups of like 2 or 3. Um, and then everybody else will be in a breakout room. So really just kind of connecting with each other, talking about honestly, really whatever you want to talk about, just be talking with them. If it's about how classes are going, if they have any plans for Labor Day, just really getting to connect and spend some time talking and just being together. Any questions about that as I get my
Sorry.
breakout room started?
I can see Larab and Nora. Can I go sit with them and be in their group?
Yes, that will be great.
I just realized they're across from me. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So let me get those breakout rooms
Thank you.
open. And Brendan. English. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and open up these rooms. So go ahead and join them, and I'll send out some time reminders as we get a little bit closer. just gave everybody 60 seconds to get back to the main room. All righty. Hopefully, y'all were able to have some good conversations, able to check in with each other. At this point, I'm gonna hand it over to Sarah.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of an extension for training, and a lot of you may have already heard us talk about like professionalism and relationship building. But Oscar and I were, as we were talking about this portion of training, we just kind of were really thinking about professionalism and relationship building, but specifically in how it relates back to community community and what that actually means. So that's kind of where we wanted to take it. So we want y'all to kind of think just a little bit about like, what do you think of when you think of community? So using the annotation function, I think that's an option, right, Oscar? Pretty sure it is. Using the annotation, like, just tell us kind of a brain dump of what community, when you think of community, what does that actually mean for you specifically?
And Sarah, as you said that, I feel like in the past it was an option next to the green, like you're sharing your screen. But now I can't remember. I feel like that changed. I don't know what the annotate where it is now.
Uh, and I'm on my phone, so it's like impossible
Yeah.
for
Hi.
me to do something.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Brendan, do you know?
I pressed a button at the top next to where it says green Oscar King is speaking, and there's a drop down menu, and I think I'm gonna type something on the screen.
Do it.
Oh, someone's
Yeah.
doing it.
That was not me. I'm doing the question marks. Okay, yeah. If you go to the top, there's a drop down menu, and you click annotate from that menu up to where it says you are viewing Oscar King's screen.
Yeah, I saw a green pen icon as well, just on the screen. That's how I annotated.
Perfect.
Gainesville crew is having a little difficulty.
That's okay.
Gainesville crew, if y'all can't figure it out, you can also drop some stuff in the chat as well.
If you want, you can just shout it out and I'll type it.
That too. People. Awesome. I'm seeing some themes. Solidarity and safety. Andrew, I feel like you're probably saying accountability, maybe accountability or something. Camaraderie. Sharing. Being able to share things, feelings, and interests. Friendship. Yeah. Of all of these. Accountability. That's a really cool one, actually. Like your community or your accountability buddies, they hold you accountable. Thank you, Brendan. I love that. Awesome. All right. Well, we want you guys to, one of the things that we've recognized with community is that while there's a lot of similarities to what we think of when we think of community, a lot of times community is something that's very specific to us. It's very unique. Like we have very specific ideas of what community means, and it might not be the same for everyone, even within the same community. Like they might have even different ideas. So while there are themes, it might mean something different. And then along with that, a community, we all are involved in a lot or a part of a lot of different communities. Y'all are part of an SI community. You're part of, I know my English majors, y'all are a community all on your own. You know, we all have outside communities that we're involved with. Our families are a community, you know, like we have a lot of different communities that we're involved with. And so when we think about and our needs in those communities and our expectations for those communities can vary based on what and who we're working with, right? So that's kind of what we want. We wanted to think about what community just overall means before touching on the different stakeholders that we have in SI. So where does this community actually, or this sense of community actually fit into the picture of SI? So Oscar, is there anything that we need to add to that?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is also like when thinking about SI, and I can go ahead and click to the next slide, and our stakeholders, let me clear, is that for SI specifically, like we're used to, I think a lot of us are used to those communities that we have, like our personal communities, family, whatever. But this is more of like SI is a job. So what does it look like to build professional communities?
Yeah.
And so be thinking about that as we kind of go through each of these stakeholders as well. That's the only other thing I would add.
Yep. Yeah, like so your community with your friends is going to be very different than the community that you have, you know, with maybe your faculty or professional organizations that you're a part of. Same thing among SI. So again, we wanted to talk a little bit about like one of the goals of SI, like one of the things that we're doing is focusing on community. That's one of those foundations for SI. Like we are, each semester you're building a community with the faculty, with these stakeholders, these 4 stakeholders. This is the SI Diamond that we've used. The International Center uses this as well. And so each semester we're working with these different stakeholders, and they're all part of the SI community, but they're also communities in and of themselves, right? And so how we act and how we respond to these different stakeholders and what we expect from them, it's going to be different. So that's kind of, as we go through these, definitely be taking notes, be thinking about like, what does it actually mean to foster or build a community with the different stakeholders? Like, what do you need from them? And then what might you be able to bring to the table in these communities as well? So those are kind of the three questions. What does it actually mean to build community with the stakeholders? What do you need within that community? And what can you bring? What do you bring to the table? So,
And with that last question, go ahead and be thinking about that, but we don't ever know what someone needs without asking or them telling us. So like these are like great questions to ask each of these stakeholders as well. Like that's like step one in communication is like, okay, like we're doing this together. Like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I support you? So be thinking about like how you might even broach this topic with each of these stakeholders as well.
Oscar, is there another slide or are we just going through each of them?
Going through.
Cool. Okay. I wasn't sure yet. I wasn't sure. All right. So starting with our students, students are the main ones I think we think when we're thinking about community and SI. We're working with this group of students. We want them to work together. We want them to collaborate. I think that's a part of community as well, is that collaboration piece. And that's what we're trying to do with our students. And so I always think of students as like the SI leader role with students is advocate. That's kind of the word that I associate with the student portion of the diamond is advocate. So as leaders, we want to advocate for our students. We're wanting to really focus on what they need, even if they don't fully know what that is themselves, we're there to advocate for them, not only within the SI sessions, but to the faculty, when we're telling our faculty, meeting with the faculty and saying like, hey, this is what my students are seeing. You sharing that information with your faculty is you advocating for your students. So really focusing in on, when it comes to our students, how can we advocate for them? How can we, what are those things that we do that help us build that community in that specific professional role of advocate? So I'm actually kind of curious to hear if anybody has any ideas from that. How do we advocate and build a community through advocacy for our students?
Like helping them with, sorry, I just like totally blanked out. It's been a long day. I was in mid-sentence. It was with focus on what they need, even if they don't know necessarily. Oh, my professor and I don't know, but she passes out these blank sheets of paper, because if you're maybe feeling self-conscious to ask a question, but you're not understanding something, you can turn that piece of paper in at the end of class. And then she posts them to D2L. And so I said I would go in, and her and I were talking, and we thought it'd be a good idea if I went into those questions and used them as like an opener or a closer, or maybe even a main for, I would go in and do it on my own and like create content with them, but then maybe actually go through the questions with the student and ask them to like teach back a certain portion, like, hey, one of the students is struggling with this, but do you know, is that like what you mean by
Yeah.
like finding out what they need without them having to expose themselves if they're feeling self-conscious or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever that is. That's a good way to help them get those questions answered and not feel so alone and not knowing, because a lot of times if you're not understanding something, a lot of the other students aren't, but certain people are afraid to speak up. So it's a way to help them.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay. I was gonna say something else, but I don't remember.
I
Well,
think,
never mind.
sorry. I think being like generous or charitable with kind of like your time and your labor towards them can go a long way towards being like an advocate for the students. Like if you have a session at a time that isn't working for them, taking the, you know, the steps to make sure that they're able to attend, making sure that they have high quality activities to do, they're actually getting things out of. And you know, I mean, like I'm thinking back to like last semester, and that was the kind of stuff that convinced them that I'm on their side. You know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah, we talk a lot about like say yes when it's like when possible to students. And I think that's a big thing. Like we don't, when we say like say yes when possible, like it doesn't mean, you know, hey, can you create a study guide, or can you help me um can you help me study after hours, or like can I send you my paper, and you like that's not exactly like what we mean. We mean like say yes when it's reasonable. So like being flexible with your time, like as far as if sessions aren't working for them, be flexible, do what you can to make your schedule flexible, or so that you're serving them better. Definitely stewardship, I think, was something I think, Brendan, kind of inside of what you're saying, like being sure to take the time that is needed to really come up with like quality um, things for them to do, ways for them to learn the material, um, stuff like that. I think is all really good for sure. My cat's going crazy. I don't know if y'all can hear him. Oscar, do you have anything that you would want to add to the student section?
Yeah, like the only other thing I would add, kind of almost like piggybacking on that too, is like bringing in that professionalism piece, like, you know, keeping and setting and maintaining those boundaries with students, you know. Like I think it's very easy to look and become friends with students, but like when you're in this role, at least for this semester, when they're a student, like you're going to treat them more as their advocate rather than like as a friend. Like if a friend asked me for my notes from a class that they missed, I'd be like, not even think, like, yes, absolutely, you got it. Whereas for our students, as an advocate role, we have to think more of like what's going to be best for them, like encouraging them. Like if they know if they aren't going to go to class, but they can get the notes from you, they aren't going to go to class, and then that's not going to help them. So kind of having that like forward future thinking too. But I think that's it, all I would add.
Yeah, and getting them to build those friendships and that community with each other, I think, is a really big piece in here. Is really focusing on that. So like Oscar, you mentioned being able to like give notes. Well, they don't need your notes, but you can connect them with another student in class and they can get notes from their peer, right? As opposed to only going to you. And then that's a connection that they may not have had before that might actually really benefit them moving forward, not only in this class, but they might see that student in that peer in another class. They're building those relationships, and as the SI facilitator, you're helping them do that, helping them kind of work together and build a community of support, and accountability, kind of going back to what Andrew's word. You're helping them build that up in this advocate role, for sure.
I lied. I also thought of one other thing I wanted to mention. And thinking of like that third question, which isn't necessarily on the board, but like, what do your students need from you? And thinking about like what community means to them. Sarah and I thought of an example of like, if someone is like, community to me is like food, like that's how me and my communities, we gather and we like eat a meal together. Like, obviously you cannot buy pizza for every single session, like throughout the semester, but maybe it's hey, if y'all do want food, like if we want to order a pizza, like Venmo me a few dollars before each session, and then I'll go get the pizza and bring it to session. Finding those ways to make what can be like an unreasonable request, like if a student is just like, hey, can you get pizza for us every session? Not necessarily a reasonable request, but like, can we find the way to make it into a reasonable request that we can say yes to?
Absolutely. Okay, so moving down to faculty. So faculty, that's a relationship that you're building that looks very different than the relationship that you're building with students, right? So when we were thinking about faculty, we always talk about ally. Being the faculty, your relationship with the faculty is as like an ally ship. Is that no? Whatever. You guys get it. You understand what I'm saying. Y'all are allies. So when you're working with the faculty, I would say kind of keep that in mind. What does it mean to be an ally for that faculty? And then what do you need from the faculty for them to be your ally as well? And I think that's a key piece. Because sometimes I know for me, it would like, I remember working with some faculty that I didn't have a super strong relationship with. And so I didn't ask for what I needed from that faculty, because I was also working with a faculty that became like that. It was really easy to work with them. I knew exactly what that looked like. So it was kind of lopsided. I had one faculty that I'm working with that never really talked to, never really did anything. I was just kind of there. And then one faculty that I was like super involved in everything. And so honestly, it's like I needed to build up that other relationship and move more into that ally role. And that would have caused, or it would have taken me being the one to initiate that. So faculty should always look like be your ally, and you should be theirs. So the big thing with that is just making sure that you are supporting them and whatever is reasonable, whatever way is reasonable. The big thing here is like sometimes we'll get students that get a little bit disgruntled with faculty for whatever reason. And so just making sure that you're maintaining that relationship. I'm trying to think of like the best way to say that, but I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Just always remember the faculty are your ally, and you're theirs. And so that's key. So with that, I'm curious, what would y'all say is like a way to treat faculty as your ally? How do y'all do that and build up that community?
I think like communication is really central to that
Okay.
because you know, our faculty, that they are like in a position of authority, they're not our boss. We don't send our hours logs to them. You know, we're two independent organisms that have the same goal. Like both of us want the students to perform well and to learn the material, and we go about that in two different ways, you know. So I think coordinating with faculty, making sure that both the facilitators and the faculty have the resources that they need to like, you know, see through those two kind of parallel goals is really cool.
I love that, parallel goals, because yep, we do, y'all are doing we're doing the same thing. We're hoping for student success, but we do it in two different ways. I think that's really great, Brendan. Tiffany, were you going to add something?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
It took me so long. I was thinking like I'm not like an expert facilitator or anything, but with Dr. Cook, I feel like our relationship is really natural. So like I saw her in the hall this morning and she's like, Tiffany, you have a 9 a.m. class, right? So you can't come to our Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. They're so quiet. I don't have any feedback. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, I know. How are we going to get them to session? And so we just kind of naturally talk back and forth. And then the other thing I think of is having respect for their position, even though, because I kind of see her as, I mean, you guys are my boss, my supervisors, Oscar and Sarah, and there's like a respect for her position. And so I'm her ally, but I'm like, I'm not her underling or something, but she's like respect her PhD and her position of authority and her expertise. And like, if she's saying you need to read to do well, like making sure I'm on the same page as her and like saying, echoing whatever she's saying, like emphasizing that.
Yep.
Like, and she always refers to me in class. She'll be like, Tiffany, what do you need to do well in this class? Hope you say, you know, I hope Tiffany would say read. I don't know if that's, I'm kind of giving examples, I guess, of what I think that looks like.
Great examples, because I think the English peeps said a little bit of the same thing, like treat and talk to them like a human being, rather than an authority. Like, and that I think is a big part, like remembering that they're not your supervisor. They definitely have like they're the expert in the classroom, but again, they're your ally. And so if you look at it with that view of like what Brendan was saying, of like the parallel goals and stuff, like you start to see them a little bit more as y'all are kind of on the same level. And so definitely treating them with respect, remembering that to highlight and focus on the things that they're that they want the students to focus on, you know, making sure that you're very clear in, with that communication, so that you know what their expectations are and you can help the students meet those expectations. So that's awesome. Good job, y'all. Okay, for sake of time, we're going to run through the next two relatively quickly, because I think these are a little bit easier to do. So falling with the SI leaders, so those are really just kind of your peers, your colleagues, I guess you would say, actually. So the other SI facilitators, the SI, like the mentors, all of them, we look at this community as, this is where a lot of like friendships get made, and we hope that y'all can see each other as like as friends, as that community that like really supports and builds each other up, because y'all are all doing the same thing. Y'all have this common ground. Like that sense of, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was written on the board, but it was like the sense of what was it called? Like y'all are doing the same things. The word literally just left my brain. What in the world? Oh my gosh. But y'all are doing the same things. You have shared experiences. And so in that way, y'all can really support each other in a way that no others can. Nobody really knows what it means to be an SI facilitator other than the people that are on this team, right? And so like definitely lean into that community and build that community up, because these are the people, your colleagues are the people that know what you're going through. They're experiencing it in the same, in a lot of the same ways that you are. And so we really hope that you'll treat the your SI colleagues as friends and really focus in on those relationships. Do what you can to support each other. I know like some of you guys are in classes that have SI in them, you know, so going and showing that support by attending sessions, or really focusing in on your community. And I think everyone on this call is Gainesville. So like when you see each other across campus, you know, or around campus, making a point to just, even if it's something really small, but just stop and say hi, you know, and just getting to know the people on your team. We have a lot of commonalities that I don't think we know right off the bat until we have those conversations. And so really focus in on building that community. And then also, I would say here to really think about like, what can you bring? Like, what agency do you have to build community among your colleagues? And then Oscar, would you add anything to that one? I know we're kind of.
No, I don't know if you can see me, but I think you got it all.
Okay. And then finally, we have SI admin. This one this is pretty cut and dry, but we look at it as that word that we had was support, like supporter. And I think this goes both ways. Y'all 100% support us just by what you do. Just by doing what you do, you're supporting SI admin, because y'all are the ones on the ground, like in front of students, doing the great work. So much more so than what we could ever do. Y'all are the reason we do what we do. And then from there, you know, we do what we can to support y'all as well. And so really focusing in on that, just remembering like you guys have what support. That's, I think, the big question here is what support do you need? And then what are those ways that you can support the SI organization as a whole? And again, a lot of that is do it just by doing what your job, just by doing what you do. But like your job does feed into the larger picture. So just kind of keeping that in mind, like what I do, it matters, and it matters to the overall story of UNGSI, and what I'm doing helps our program as a whole be honestly one of the best programs in the country. And I'm not just saying that, I know that for a fact. And so everything that y'all do is supporting that. And so really thankful for y'all, and just kind of keep that in mind. There is a reason why everything that y'all do, there's a reason why you do it. There's a reason why we do what we do to support y'all as well. So yeah, I think that's it for SI admin.
Yeah,
But
and with that piece, I'll just kind of add into one way that I think y'all support the admin team and the organization in general. One way that y'all majorly support it is through feedback. And so giving us that feedback is so valuable, because if y'all are talking to your faculty or your friends about things that you don't necessarily like or disagree with, like they can't do anything about it. But if you come to us, like we're able to take that feedback and really try and implement that and change this organization for the better. So that's just something I would throw in, is we really do value that feedback. So don't be afraid to give it to us.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Good point, Oscar, for sure. All right. Do we want to go directly into this? Can you talk about this one, Oscar?
Yeah, and I know where like some people may have class, that kind of thing. So if you don't have time to do this right now, go ahead, take a picture of this so that you can kind of do it and think about it. But now that we've been able to talk about each of the stakeholders with SI and kind of be thinking, hopefully, like Sarah said at the beginning, you've been writing some ideas down, thinking about that. We also, once again, recognize like y'all are not only SI facilitators, you are so much more than that, and you are involved with many other communities and organizations. So I feel like we're doing a lot of visioning this semester, which is great. Sarah and I actually sat in one of the listening tours with the president yesterday. Was that yesterday? I don't know. At some point. And like he even talked about like visioning. So it's kind of cool how this is all coming together. But we just wanted to take some time to think about and vision, like, what do you want this semester to look like? What does building that community in each of those kind of more professional within the SI role with those stakeholders, what do you want that to look like? What do you want community outside of your SI role to look like this semester? And what agency do you have in realizing your vision for building those communities? What are those steps that you can take? What are those things that you are in control of that you can do to make that vision a reality? So like I said, I know we're running low on time, so take a picture of this and be thinking about these things. Think about what you want this semester to look like in terms of community. Like I said, in SI, outside of SI, and what are you going to do to get there? What are the steps you can be taking to make that a reality? Sarah, did you have any other thing to add?
I don't think so. One of the things, like Oscar said, I think he said this earlier, we're going to start doing a newsletter. The newsletter will start coming out in the next week or so. And with that, we really want to focus on like that continual feedback. I know we mentioned that during training, but we want to reiterate that now. And so definitely please be looking out for any opportunity for feedback. And honestly, this might be one of those feedback, one of the feedback that we try to collect is from this. So like really be thinking, what do you need? What do you need from us to do your role better, to build those communities? How can we support you in building those communities? And then when we have that feedback form available, just take a little bit of time and fill it out, complete it for us. Any of the feedback that we're asking for, you know, even if it's something really short and brief, it can be really helpful. We do take those things into consideration when making decisions. And so, again, Oscar mentioned this earlier, but like, it's all about that communication. We have to tell you, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. So definitely be thinking, what do you need? How, especially within the SI team, what do you need for those communities? Not just what you can do, but what do you need?
So, well, I think that's a good kind of wrapping up place, especially with our time that we're at. But I hope everybody has a great, I know it's only Wednesday, but the weekend will be here soon. I hope everybody has a lovely long weekend, a great Labor Day. If you're traveling, I wish everybody safe travels. But yes, everybody take some time to rest and enjoy some time off for Labor Day.